Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be taking a first look here at this Week 15 NFL DraftKings main slate. Like I always do, I'm going to go position by position, highlighting the plays that are sticking out to me here early in the week, and then we'll wrap up this video with a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup. With that being said, let's dive right into this. And we're going to kick things off here at the quarterback position. Now, right away at the top, you can see we got some big names on this 10-game slate here. Allen, Prescott, Tua, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud. But the first guy that's catching my attention here is, once again, Brock Purdy. His price continues to go up on DraftKings, but for all the right reasons. This guy has been consistent all year long. 25-point DraftKings performance again last week, 32 the week before that. Got an outlier there of 11 DraftKings points, but 29-23. Look, he's still priced too cheap in my opinion in the 6K range. DraftKings could easily price him in the 7K range based off of how he's played this year. If I'm shooting for 3x value in my cash lineup, he can definitely hit that, and he's tournament viable as well at that price, and considering the matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, scrolling down here a little bit, Sam Howell did stick out to me as well. You never know what you're going to get out of Sam Howell, but he has been consistent when it comes to racking up DraftKings points, and you can see that here off to the right-hand side. Been largely doing that with his legs as of late. He scored 4 rushing touchdowns in his last 3 games. I don't know if I can depend on that week in, week out with Sam Howell, and I don't love that he has 0 passing touchdowns, so probably more of a tournament play for me here initially on, but he did catch my attention there at $6,300. Now, right below that and on the other side of that game, I really like Matthew Stafford here, especially on the tournament side of things. He might even be cash viable. He's played very well here over the last 3 weeks. I love that matchup at home against the Commanders, who have not been able to stop the pass all year long. Like I said, love him in tournaments and probably cash viable at that price of $6,000. And then during my initial look here, one other quarterback was catching my attention, and hey, look, I don't love it. I'll be upfront with you guys. But Joe Flacco here of the Cleveland Browns has played pretty well in each of his last 2 games. 25 DraftKings points last week, threw for 3 touchdowns and over 300 passing yards, 250 yards the week before that, 2 passing touchdowns. We need, 16.5 DraftKings points for him to hit 3x value in our cash lineups. If we're looking for 4-5x value in tournaments, looks like he can get there as well. So like I said, I don't necessarily love it here initially on, but numbers don't lie, and they've been pretty good here for Flacco in his first 2 games. Now, moving on to the running backs. First guy we got at the top here, Christian McCaffrey. That comes as no surprise to anyone. Love the matchup for him here this week, though. I know we say he's pretty much matchup proof, and he is in my opinion. We can play him week in and week out, but this matchup against the Cardinals is certainly a good one. He's heavily involved in the running game, heavily involved in the passing game, and obviously scores a lot of touchdowns, already 17 this year. Certainly expensive at $9,300, but DraftKings isn't really moving off of that price either, so I will go back to him once again. Certainly don't mind AK this week at a good matchup at home against the Giants. And then sticking in the top 3 here, I also like Kyren Williams in this matchup at home against the Commanders, and honestly, I think we probably could play him and Stafford in the same cash lineup. Usually you're not correlating Matthew Stafford with his running back, but Kyren Williams has been heavily involved in the passing game, so we certainly could go that route. I think I prefer to stack up Stafford with a Puka Nacua or a Cooper Kupp, and I'll probably build a tournament lineup at the end of this video around that, but Kyren Williams certainly in play for tournaments and cash lineups this week. And it's probably going to be one of those weeks where I spend up in my cash lineup at the running back position in general, because I also like Rachaad White here, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hasn't been the most efficient runner this year, but that has changed in the last 3 games. You can see he's averaging over 4 yards per carry in each of those games, and continues to be heavily involved in the passing game as well. Yes, his price is going up on DraftKings, but again, for all the right reasons. And then one last running back that I wanted to highlight here is Ezekiel Elliott. You can see Ramondre is questionable, but if he misses this week, I wouldn't mind going to Zeke here. He should be involved in the passing game quite a bit. Saw 8 targets last week, 7 receptions, finished the game with 27 DraftKings points. No, I'm not banking on that here once again, but if he got me 15 to 18 DraftKings points, I'd absolutely be okay with that. Now, folks, before we dive into the wide receiver plays here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. We're trying to get SlyDog Sports to 4,000 subs by the end of 2023. Probably a lofty goal, but if you haven't subbed yet today and you can do that here, again, I would really appreciate that. Now, dipping into these wide receivers here, definitely some big names at the top. Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, and Stephon Diggs. But I really love that matchup for those wide receivers for the LA Rams, whether it be Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. Like I said, I'll build a tournament lineup around those guys at the end of this video. Deebo Samuel, love the matchup for him here against the Arizona Cardinals. He has been balling out over the last 3 weeks, but his DraftKings price is reflecting that now here at $7,700. Purely a tournament play for me. Probably won't touch him in cash just because the volume isn't super consistent. He's a consistent and efficient runner, no doubt about that, but cash games, I'm looking for that volume. Scrolling down here a little bit, I didn't love the 6K range, but Rashee Rice did stick out to me for the Kansas City Chiefs. 3 straight weeks here where he's seen 9+ targets. Clearly the number 1 wide receiver in this Chiefs offense, number 2 pass catcher behind Travis Kelce, and the DraftKings numbers have reflected how well he's played here as of late, so I will go to him at $6,100 in both cash and tournament lineups. Scrolling down here a little bit off of that, I don't necessarily love the 5K range. I do like Jaden Reed here, the Green Bay Packers, like the matchup at home against the Buccaneers, and someone who's been very efficient this year. The volume has been there in the passing game, plus he's been getting some rushing attempts as well, which have led to 2 rushing touchdowns in his last 4 games, so I don't mind that price there, $4,900. Elijah Moore, I think we probably can go back to him. I know he wasn't outstanding last week, but still saw 6 targets. He's now seen 27, is that right? 27 targets here in his last 3 games. It's the volume I'm looking for when it comes to my cash lineup. Plus, you do have that chemistry with him and Joe Flacco going back to their New York Jet days. So when it comes to value wide receivers, those were really the 2 that stuck out to me, Elijah Moore and Jaden Reed. Now, as far as tight ends go, worth mentioning, we do have Travis Kelce and George Kittle on this slate. But if I'm looking to spend up at the running back position here this week, maybe sprinkle in one of those more expensive wide receivers, I'm going to have to spend down at the tight end position. I like David Njoku there at $4,700, but even that's probably too expensive for my cash lineup. So I'm looking here in the low 3K range, and there were 2 guys that stuck out to me. First being Tyler Conklin here of the New York Jets. Volume remains consistent in this offense, only $3,100, where we need, 9.3 DraftKings points for him to hit 3x value. He's certainly capable of doing that, and I don't mind the matchup there against Miami. And then the other tight end that I liked here was also in the 3K range. That is Chig Okonkwo of the Tennessee Titans. Volume has definitely been there for him as well, and I do love that matchup against the Houston Texans, who have not been able to stop tight ends all year long. And then when it comes to a defense this week, there are some decent plays here in the upper 3K range, but again, probably not going to be able to spend up for defense in my cash lineup. I was trying to find the best value play here in the 2K range. Nothing that I'm in love with, to be honest with you guys. So the Patriots were the defense that stuck out to me here against the Kansas City Chiefs. I know notoriously that sounds scary, but the Chiefs offense hasn't necessarily been elite this year in general, and especially as of late. So I might just lock them in here, at least for my first initial look. With that being said, let's put together a first look cash lineup. I'm going to keep the Patriots defense in there, really affordable at $2,300. So let's move on to the quarterback, and I'd like to get to Brock Purdy if at all possible. Let's put him in at $6,800. We can definitely play him and CMC in the same lineup. They've proven that week in and week out. I'm going to put in Kyren Williams here as well, and I'm even going to put in Rachaad White for now, really spending up at the running back position. But immediately here, we're going to need to find some value at the wide receiver position. So let's put in both Jaden Reed and Elijah Moore. $3,800 left over per player. Let's put in a tight end. I'm going to go with Conklin here initially. If I needed that extra price savings, I could go to Chig there at $2,900, but let's put in Conklin. $4,600 left over for a wide receiver. I don't mind Curtis Samuel, but I don't love it either. Let's pivot off of an expensive running back here. Let's go off of Williams, and let's put in Zeke at $5,800. What does that open up for us? $6,300 left over. Okay, that gets tough, so let's go. Let's put in Puka, because I went off of a Rams player there, so now I need to find an extra $1,000. And we can do that off of Brock Purdy and put in Joe Flacco. I know I mentioned earlier, I don't know if Flacco's a lock when it comes to cash lineups, but it makes sense for now in a first look cash lineup. All right, now let's put together a first look tournament lineup, and I talked about that game between the Rams and Commanders quite a bit, so let's build a stack around Matthew Stafford, and let's put in both of his top 2 wide receivers, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Right away, we got a good stack there, and let's run it back on the Commander side of things. I noticed today that Brian Robinson missed practice. He missed the last half of last game, actually, with a hamstring injury. So if he doesn't play this week, I think Gibson could be a sneaky tournament play. So we do get a little correlation there and running it back with Gibson. He's heavily involved in the passing game for the Commanders. And now we're going to need to find some value. So let's put in Christian McCaffrey. No value there whatsoever, but I love that matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. Now I really need to find some value. Let's go put in Conklin once again. And actually, let's save some money and put in Chig. Let's go back to the Patriots as well. $4,600 left over per player. We can even do a little stack there with Zeke and the Patriots defense. Little running back defense stack. $3,400 left over for a wide receiver. We could go with Michael Gallup. Did he score last week? He did score last week. So maybe he can build on that. 13, 14 DraftKings points. That's all I really need at this price here, whether it be for my cash lineup or tournament lineup. If we wanted to, we could certainly kind of pivot off of one of those more expensive. Actually, you know what we could do here, if this would load, is pivot off of McCaffrey. And let's go to, we could keep a semi-expensive running back there. Let's go to Mostert of the Miami Dolphins, and then $5,600 left over for a wide receiver. Terry McLaurin, if you wanted to give off a Gibson. Gabe Davis. There's a lot of shootout potential in that game between the Buffalo Bills and Dallas Cowboys this week, so let's put in Gabe Davis to wrap up this tournament lineup. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great week here, folks, and in the meantime, I'm out of here.